So, Business Builders, brand new podcast. Got myself here with Mark Connolly. I'm John Loudon, and what we're going to be talking about is business, marketing, sales, and basically anything related to how you build a company, grow a company, and succeed in business. So to get us kicked off today, we were looking at how do we introduce ourselves to the podcast, Mark? How do we talk about that? How do we let people see what we do? But not do it in a boring way, do it in something that people are partway interested for it. I think when we were discussing this, we were looking at how do you get into the digital sector? How do you get into the career? And then likewise, how did we get up to that point where we jumped into our business? So I think that would make a great topic. You know, how do we make that career journey? Do you want to kick us off, Mark? How did you get into the digital sector?
Absolutely. So I'll start all the way from the beginning. I basically, when I came out of school and stuff like that, I never had the right grades to get into the marketing courses. I think at Strathclyde University you had to have like 4 A's and a B or something like that. I came out with a B and 2 C's or something. I can't remember actually, but I didn't have enough grades. So I actually ended up going into the working world, and I actually worked for the Glasgow City Council. Housing, it was the housing side of it at that time, so now it's now changed to GHA. But within there, I was working as an admin assistant, but was very closely aligned to the marketing team within Glasgow City Council. So I started doing little things with them, and it was just, I always had a passion for marketing, and then it actually then started kind of growing when I was in there. And I thought, well, I really actually want to do this. I still want to go back in Surrey. So I went back into I applied for a college course, HND Advertising and PR.
How did that work? Sorry, so see when you got into the college, did they sort of weight that up and use your experience in the sector that you'd had a bit of experience? Or were they less kind of fussy about it because they were college?
They were only really caring about my grades actually, to be perfectly honest.
So they still done it on grade even though?
They still done it on grade.
Okay.
But it was enough, because I had a couple of hires, it was enough to get into a HND course. And honestly, as a course and learning skills, that was, I would say, is a linchpin in my career. It was such a practical course. It taught me so much, from speaking skills, to writing press releases, to doing advertising campaigns, copywriting. Really, really, really good. Also got to go to New York and visit New York as well. And
see, we never got that in our college. There was no New York pressure at Motherwell.
Yeah, such a good course. And then from there, I was able to go into third year of university at University of Paisley, which is now University of West of Scotland. Done really, really well at university. Actually ended up with a 2-1 with an honours degree. But then coming out of that to then trying to get into the marketing sector was hard. And you need, all sort of students that come out, they all have the same problem, especially in marketing, because it's so competitive. You're just applying for jobs and they're looking for experience. If you get 2 years experience, you get 3 years experience, and like.
So how did you approach that? Did you know it was going to be so hard to get in, or did you already kind of have that in your mind, like this is going to be tough?
No, I didn't. I probably was a bit naive, to be perfectly honest, and thinking I would probably get a job. But it was just about just having a slog of sending CVs out constantly. I did start doing a little bit in the back end where a couple kind of uncles and aunts and stuff like that had their own businesses, and I was helping them with like marketing flyers. And
so you did that down the side as well?
On the side, and it was mainly because it was like, then I could show a portfolio to. It's
a brilliant point, actually, building that portfolio as you're going through.
Yeah, going through, exactly. So that's what I ended up doing, and then I got my big break at Premier Housewares. Premier Housewares is probably Scotland's kind of secret as well. It's a housewares, homewares company in Whiteinch in Glasgow, but it's massive. They supply like furniture and cups and saucers and all that sort of stuff to Morrison's, to Nick's, to all these different companies. So basically, you probably find when you turn your plate upside down,
you'll see
the Premier logo, and it's actually coming from them. So I got my break in there. Really, really good company to work for. Now, when I remember when I started, it was the staff were like, "You've made the wrong decision coming here. It's like the worst job." But they just kind of get sucked into not having the right mindset.
Yeah, I think that mindset's so key as well, isn't it? I've had that before as well with jobs where people look at it and they're thinking this is a terrible job, and you're thinking, you don't know how fortunate you are. Let's say to be in digital, I think it's a privilege.
Yeah.
And I remember my wife worked in Subway, the one at George Square, and she had a guy coming in and he was talking about losing a game of foosball, right? And then, so he's moving foosball and whatnot, and he gets to the kind of till and she's like, do you work in digital? And the guy's like, oh, how do you know that? And she says, no one else would come in and complain about losing a game of foosball in the middle of the day. Because it's like, you know, it's a luxury. There is a certain relaxed kind of nature to digital.
But Premier is a really good company. I met my wife at Premier as well, so she's a buyer.
Can't all be bad then.
So it couldn't all be bad. And then from there, I've had lots and lots of different jobs, but from there I moved on to a wind turbine company. I had various different types of jobs, very technical, very client-sided as well. What about you? I mean, how did you start off in your career? And
yeah, so it's quite funny. So there's definitely synergies in the way that's done, but my career's been a little bit unusual, I guess. I worked in a call centre for a pretty long time, actually, probably about 5-6 years of my life. So I worked there and I was kind of doing some freelance. And when I was doing that, like this is like prior to college or anything like that, so I was very young. I started Photoshop at around about 8 years old and I've just been obsessed. Wow. So I was like a kind of digital painter, doing all that kind of stuff, making album covers and all the cool stuff, make a logo for a band. So I was doing that, I was doing the kind of freelance, and then what I kind of realised was the more I kind of built my business, so I was a sole trader, and the more I built my business up, I kind of realised that I was coming off the tools. So I was doing less of the creative work and much more of the management and the man management of developers, designers, salespeople. And then when you look at it, businesses now, that's what they crave. That's what everybody wants, is to get off the tools and run it. And I had that business almost running completely on autopilot. But it's a conflict, because at that point, if you think about it from my context, I hadn't had my career yet.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like eating your pudding first. You know, you've not had your dinner, you've not had your starter yet. Which, you know, has its own perks. But at that point, I was like, nah, raging, not happy at all. This isn't for me. So I looked at it and I thought, I'm going to go to college. So went to Motherwell College, kind of doing that kind of stuff, studying there, kind of topping my class, you know, like doing that kind of stuff. And that was great. And then after it, they'd been kind of filling my head with all this, like, you'll do well, you'll definitely do well, you know, you'll see that you'll go places. So you kind of get a wee bit complacent and you're thinking, this is shoey in, this is going to be easy. And then I put my CVs out and I didn't get any replies. Not even any sorry or come for an interview and then let you down. So I thought, I can't even get an interview. I can't get an interview. And I'm thinking, maybe I've just misunderstood. You know, I've got the wrong end of the stick here. Maybe I'm not actually that good. So I stopped and I basically worked in a call centre, was proper flat. You know, I was still studying, I was still interested, still doing bits of freelance, but my kind of like spark had went out. You know, somebody had extinguished the flame. I wasn't as passionate about it. And then when I met my wife, funny you're saying that, so it's like we worked in the same pub, so we've had parallel careers, but we'd never actually met each other. And then when we met was just at that time. And she's kind of like, I noticed that you've got all these books on digital. Is that what you do? And you're like, no, actually I work in a call centre, but I studied to do that. And then she's looking at my paintings. She's like, you work with Photoshop every day, you're doing all this design work, you're really talented. Like, why would you not get back in the horse and go for it? I was like, well, just, I don't know what it is, but I couldn't even get any interviews. So she encouraged me to kind of get back in the horse and have another go. And I remember Borders Books, like prior to when it turned into this big sewing machines kind of shop thing they've got going now. So we're in Baldur's Books and there was a book called Design Portfolios, and when I opened that I was thinking, this is brilliant, you know, they've got all these creative CVs, so it was like CVs you've never seen, it was almost like break the rules CVs, right? And that's became very fashionable, and I spoke to college students about getting into the industry using that now, but at the time that was new, that was like kind of eye-opening to me. So I designed my CV that was like almost like a timeline, so it was like this 3D timeline where there's my merits, here's what I've done here, I had a background in art and all this kind of stuff. I sent it out and I had 8 interview requests the next day, right? And I'm thinking, game changer. So there's me, I progressed to my next step, got an interview, sold myself, and I got 2 job offers, like right off the back of the interviews. So I had barhead travel. Now, because my family had never really travelled about, my mum was scared of planes, I didn't realise how big they were. So me being me, I picked the brand I thought was bigger, which was the Daily Record. So I'm thinking, right, there's me in the Daily Record, this is going to be good. Worked there, 6 months, got married. You know, that way when you get married, you spend all your money, everything's gone. Come back from my honeymoon, and there you go. We regret to inform you, those dreaded words.
Oh, I know.
Bang. been made redundant.
Oh,
So I spoke to the kind of head of department, and I was like, you know, in no uncertain terms, what the hell's going on? Like, what's happening here? And he's like, you have served your purpose. I'm like, I've served my purpose. Like, I'm like, what are you talking about? I wasn't sold this as a temporary job. But anyway, like I always say that redundancy and these kind of things that come along to test us, they're actually the best things.
Yeah.
And because of that, I actually made the jump into a software house, and it allowed me to kind of progress.
Yeah.
But that was kind of taking me through into my kind of seniorship. Yeah. So when I started there, I'm thinking, right, I'm right on the cuff of becoming a senior now. Yeah. I just need to stick in and kind of do that. Yeah. So with yourself, where did you go after Premier?
I've obviously kind of a couple of questions on that. So I'd agree with you on, you know, redundancy as well. I'll kind of talk about that. Like, I get made redundant, I think 3 or 4 times in my career, and it literally is. It can either make or break you, and it is a right. I remember it happening to me, and the girl beside me was crying and stuff like that. Total shock. What, like, they basically said, took me into the room, making you redundant, took my computer and my keys, all that sort of stuff. You need to leave right now. I'm like,
escort you out of the building.
Escort
like you're a criminal.
Like,
or something?
Exactly. I was like, what have I done? And then, like, I had to go all the way, like Betterware catalogue, so that it's like going round all the doors of basically, and if somebody was to buy something off the catalogue, that's when you would make commission. And I was only doing that just to try and get money in the house. Cause
so this wasn't a marketing job, this was you just kind of like
because I get made redundant.
And is that your, like, so that's a mindset thing, so like you got that bad news and instead of letting it affect you, you just went, I need to get a job.
No, it was absolutely the fact, because when I get made redundant, I think first time I was just been married, the next time after that, firstborn, and it was like I need to survive, basically. It was good that my wife still had a job and stuff like that as well, so there was still money coming into the house, but it was like there was not enough money, and still had to pay my bills and all that sort of stuff. So redundancies always happened at the best times. Kind of taking it back there, well, we both went to kind of college and university and stuff like that. I mean, what is the importance? You know, that like a lot of people go to college and university, and there's a real kind of importance of, you know, you're going to do that to get a job or something like that, and that's what you essentially were doing such a good job before. Then you went to college. You know, I'm still making, you know, even as an admin assistant, working closely to the marketing team. You know, I could have probably followed the path and then ended up in the marketing team anyway and still worked in marketing.
I think it is a genuine pathway, and I think, like, I've met people that have went the other way, they've just done it organically. Mm-hmm. For myself, I think the education definitely has like an importance, but it probably doesn't have quite the same importance that it once had. Yeah. So like, if you remember, like, kind of back, and not to get super political, but like Tony Blair had this idea that everybody in the UK would be degree educated. Yeah. Also everybody would train to be teachers, but you know, we've seen where that's kind of taken us to. So there's lots of people that can't get into that career, but for people like us, there became an arrogance in the sense of it was assumed that everyone in this career would have a degree. Yeah. I don't have a degree, so I don't have any kind of university qualification. I have college, but what I liked about college was it was the practicality. So when I looked at that course to the outside, I thought internet, multimedia, digital design and development. Clearly they've tried to stuff every keyword unimaginable into my course title. But when you look at it, I was studying things like copyright law, project management, e-commerce, development, back-end, front-end, JavaScript, CSS. And this was like a time, you know, you're going right the way back. This is like 2003. You know, like CSS2 had literally just been like kind of, it was coming about. There wasn't many people that knew it. Because I remember studying and thinking, no one knows this. Because I would have actually paid someone money to be self-tutored just to get better at it, thinking these are the skills that will take us forward.
And that is, just, I mean, because you talked about progression, and that's the big thing about it. And you're probably right. I mean, education for me is always something that I look to do to continuously improve. I'm always learning, even every day just now. So I think for me, I picked up a lot of skills, and skills that I probably use today. It is funny, you go into the big bad world after uni and you never really use a lot of the stuff. But there's small things, and I think it puts it's the educational ethic and the work ethic into it. But you're talking about progression in jobs. You know, from like I've worked in various companies, Proven Energy, Gale, which is a quality management software company. Gale was really good. It was a really cool company to work for. Really learnt a lot of stuff. Met lots of good friends as well. Still friends that I've got today. And I worked really built up a lot of skills in that job. Worked in different kind of various jobs before that, which kind of helped me along the way. One with the Knowledge Transfer Partnership.
Right.
So you work like a university, but they put you into a company. But that helped me kind of kick on with my Chartered Institute of Marketing. So they put me into Chartered Institute of Marketing, which is the marketing professional qualification. And that's really helped me in my career. Like,
you're still actively working with them
so
just now, if you understand as well.
So I teach for them now, and that's obviously from way back there. Like, it's obviously.
Do you think that would have came about if you hadn't been introduced to them?
No, it probably never came about, because the only reason I get to teach for them is because I'm a chartered marketer. Because I got the qualification, got all the way to the end, became a chartered marketer. So it's the top qualification that you can get from it. And that's the only reason why I'm allowed to teach. If you're not allowed to teach if you don't have a chartered marketership. So, so I had various jobs going about that, and all I was trying to do in each job was just progress. So become marketing executive to marketing manager along the way, and I ended up varies. I was mostly client side. I then went into agency side, and I just loved it. Like, it just didn't feel like a job. Every single day just didn't feel like a job, and I was just working really hard. But there was just things in my head that I was like, if I had an agency, but it wasn't really there.
It's in the
it's
head,
in there.
it's in the distance. Maybe
I could have maybe done this differently, but I got persuaded to then go and work for another company and head up a marketing team.
So this interests me, right? So when you come into a career, some people have like a goal in mind. It's kind of similar to a kid. You might say to a child or a kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? So when you got into the sector, did you have like a goal in mind, as in like, I want to be a creative director, I want to be a marketeer, a head of marketing? So like you've said that jump there, but was there a kind of a difficulty around that jump as well? Or?
It's a thing with me. I've always just want to progress. I still always want to progress to the best I possibly can. So if I was in marketing, I was going to be the head of marketing.
To be the head of it. So were you gunning for that role and applied, or did they headhunt you for that role specifically?
It was basically, so somebody who was working with me in the agency then went there. They said that they were looking for a head of marketing. Right. He said to the other person, and the boss, the managing director, said, hey, get him in to talk to him. So it wasn't, I never applied for it, but it was sort of like, come over here.
How did that feel when you finally arrived at that kind of position? Because that's quite a step up for being
it was a step up. Yeah, it felt great. It felt, that I was kind of there. But once I was in the job, I never really felt completely fulfilled. So you were managing a team.
Interesting.
Managing a team, doing different things. Definitely know that I could have been in the position for a long time, still heading up a market, just never. And then I knew there was always another itch that needed to be scratched there. I mean, what about you? What about your progression into?
So the whole reason I came into the commercial sector was to become a senior designer. So when I started my career, as soon as I got my first job, right, so I got a job offer for a guy called Craig Brown, gave me a phone call. He worked at Daily Record, he was the head of digital. Gives me a phone call, I'm out the back of British Gas, sitting in my car, right, get the news, we've got the job, would you like to take the job? And it was more than what I was getting paid, whereas all the other jobs I'd been offered were just a little bit less, because I worked all the overtime under the sun. So he said that to me, and I was like, I'd be really happy to take the job, thank you very much. Came off the phone, burst into tears, sitting in my car going, this is a chance. This is like.
And was that just a relief? Career. Is it just a relief thing because you'd been trying, so hard?
I think it was like kind of. I've never won the lottery, but I would imagine it's a similar feeling. Yeah. So if you think about it from my perspective, I was thinking I am now destined to work in a call centre or work in some sales orientated job for the rest of my life. Because obviously what we do now, right? But as I was looking at it at the time, I'm thinking this is a huge opportunity. So this was it was like a winning lottery ticket, because me and my wife spoke about this quite often, and we speak about it quite regular, but having that career path is so different to having a normal job. So in a normal job you can work your way up to being the manager, but in a career path your like way of amplifying your wages, the way of kind of progressing is just so massive. You can work your way up to be a creative director or a developer or a software engineer, and some of the salaries these guys get are insane. It's an absolutely amazing sector to work in. It's so vibrant, it's really interesting as work as well. So when he offered that, I knew that was a chance, So I came in gunning, like big time.
Yeah.
So when I went in there, I was like, right, I'm going to become the fastest ascent to a senior that you've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I worked 7 days a week. I studied all my free time. I basically gave up all form of social life, and I just basically dedicated myself for the next like 10 years.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, I always say it was like dog years, because I was effectively working treble shifts. So I was doing freelance, I was working there, I was taking on other jobs, I was pushing myself forward to consultancy, but I was trying to shape myself. So imagine like a big circle, and it has all the gaps, and I was thinking you need skills with managing people, you need skills with negotiating, you need skills with client management, you need skills with like commerciality. So I was kind of building up that stuff to make myself more valuable. So by the time I got to that software house where I'd kind of the one just after the redundancy, I came in absolutely gunning. And the guy was like, where do you see yourself in 3 years? And I'm like, where you're sitting looks good. And I was, and I got to the end, I think I was maybe about 2 years in, and I was sending him jobs going, this could be a good job for you, I know people over there, I could put in a good word, you could get like a good salary bump. And he's like, do you not want me here, John?
and
it wasn't because I didn't like him, but see, if you think about it, like from my perspective, the only two ways to become senior are either a company has a need and they've seen your talent in other areas and they take a punt on you, or you kind of wait until the guy vacates the seat above you and then you're the natural successor to that throne. So he moved away, I applied for that job and became a senior. So I had a team of 10 designers. So I had 2 senior designers and 8 sort of middleweight designers that were all working under me in various things like web design, software design and graphic design. And I was thinking, right, brilliant. But that was a head of design role. So I'd actually jumped the role I wanted and found myself with kind of like a small department to run. That was great, gave me that kind of technical background, but then when I jumped away to the e-commerce company, I worked for Indes, I got that chance to work with these really high caliber clients, but it was a purely design role, so there was no development. But if you look at it from the way I've mapped my career out, I push myself to the highest kind of technical kind of role like a software house, and once I'm satisfied, I've kind of like not maximised it because you never maximise it, but I'd learnt significant things about the software sector.
And do you think that you live and breathed your job? You were there like 7 days. Is that just you were passionate about?
I just loved the sector. It didn't feel like work to me. It felt like, one, you can make more money working overtime. Most agency owners are quite happy for you to kind of put in an extra shift, and if you're making them good money, they're quite happy as well. But if you think about it, that's the best way of building a portfolio. So I got the chance to work with like Rolex, Cartier, all these high-end websites, and you're thinking, right, Lane's a jeweller, all this kind of stuff, and you're thinking, this is brilliant. And it puts you there on the map, so people see, this is the stuff this guy's capable of designing. But then it was like kind of jumping right forward to there. At the end of that, I think it was at Indes for roughly about half a decade. And then I kind of thought, I've kind of built up wealth for all these people all over the years, but I never really had full control over my own destiny, like what I could kind of do. And for me, that was a big trigger that kind of made me think I should really start a business. You know what I mean? What about yourself? How did you get up to that kind of line before you jumped?
It's funny because it's very similar. We must have kind of similar sort of stories.
Brothers, father, mothers.
Exactly. Because I was probably the same. A real kind of passion for marketing, real sort of grit to keep on trying hard and be the best that I possibly could be. Yes, there's been mistakes throughout the way and learning points to where it is. I mean, I'd always probably had something in my head that I wanted. I've got that entrepreneurial mindset, I think, and I always wanted to run my own business. It was there, but there was just like it's too early probably in my career to do it. I want to learn my trade, learn my skills, like sharpen my blade basically. And when I was working with a company, it was like head of marketing. To be honest, the boss there was a bit of a crazy person. He was always kind of shouting, and it was quite tough at the time. And I started just doing a little bit on the side, just a little bit of a kind of side hustle. And then I said to Ashley, because it was funny, I'd said to Ashley one time when I get made redundant, I says like, listen, I'll start my own business. And she's like, no, you won't start your own business. It's like,
just because I understand the risks.
It was money as well. It was just the risks and it was the money. And she's like that, we need to get money into the household now. But at that time, Ashley had quite a good job. And I said to her, like, listen, I want to go and basically try this out for myself. And will you kind of support me on that? And she's like, right, we'll see how it goes, we'll give it, you know.
I could be shocking if she said no.
I know.
No.
Well,
You're like, right, okay.
and to be honest, I think if she said no at that time, I'd have probably still went for it, because it was, at that time, it just felt right. I think it was like that. Do I want to go for another head of marketing role? No, I want to try this out for my own. And that's where, essentially, I then went to start my own business, which is the next
jump. So just that question on that before we kind of wrap up for the kind of the learnings of it. Do you think she supported you because emotionally she could see that you weren't fulfilled from working a career, or do you think it was more the sort of like, Mark just feels this is the next natural succession to his career?
I think she's seen that I wanted to do it, and had obviously said about it before, and she's like, we are a very good partnership, to be honest. Really good partnership. We'll help each other out. We'll be truthful when we need to be truthful, and you know, so when I've got a big business decision, like I've got to say I'm going to sleep on it, I'm essentially just going back to ask her.
Exactly.
Like, what do you think? So it was like, even just there, it was like getting a hire, and I was like, I'm not sure, and she's like, just hire, and I was like, right. So she's just my kind of confidant. So she knew that I wanted to do it, and she's not going to kind of hold me back.
I think that would make an amazing episode to talk about the hidden people that support us.
Oh, aye,
it's like people, I seen a kind of post by Michelle Moan the other day on her social media, and she kind of spoke about how driven she was and that she'd done it for herself. But then that's counterintuitive to what I believe, because I believe that anyone that's successful has got there because the people around them, the people that care. And it's very rare. I've never met anyone that's kind of claimed, you know, be a self-starter. I don't think that really exists. I think it's like you're supported by your family, your friends, your loved ones, people that give a, you know,
I mean, she's got that point on because of the fighting that she had with her ex, and she probably doesn't want
stuck in it.
And she, you know, probably at that time he's driven her to a certain extent, but then they've had a big fallout, so she's never going to
she's not going to credit any of it back.
You know, if I was to fall out with Ashley, I would be like, that's she's nothing to do with it.
She's done nothing for me.
She's done nothing. She's confident? No, she never.
But now you've documented it in a podcast, so that can never be said.
Delete podcast.
That's it. So let's kind of summarise then. What would you say the kind of business belters would be, Mark, for a career journeying person? So someone that's getting into the sector, maybe give a tip about how you get in, and then if somebody's maybe getting these entrepreneurial thoughts, what would you say?
I think ultimately, follow your passion. So if you have a passion, you know, there's a lot of people that might go to university and do sports science or something like that, but then they're into it and then they're not 100% sure. But they'll have that wee niggling, I want to try and do something like that. Could be anything that, you know, could be a policeman, could be a fireman. If it's there, do it. You know, if it's go out and try hard. It's like exactly you said and exactly how I said. I didn't have the grades, you know. You didn't. You didn't have the experience either. But we worked hard. We got down on our knees and we worked, like, scrubbed the floors, got right into it. And essentially, you know, that's what's helped us, you know, get to the career where we are. So I would just say, keep going, follow the passion. If that's university, if that's a work route, but just work hard and keep going for it. Don't give up. What would be your business belter?
So I'd say that the first one, like getting into the career, if you look at it, so people would look at me and they'd probably never assume that I've had any sort of like kind of pushback or negativity around kind of entering my career. So it looks easy when you look at it in hindsight and you think, well, he's got an agency, you know, he's owned companies, he's sold companies, he's been through a career, so he's got no problems. But if you actually listened to the stuff we were talking about, it was a struggle to get in. And I think the big thing was I'd actually given up. So even though in college I'd been told, right, you know, you're going to do well, you're going to go really far, and I'm thinking, okay. And then it wasn't like an arrogance thing, it was just like I just believed what they said, but I gave up. And I think that's important. You should never give up. And especially if you're going to like push that into an entrepreneurial setting, this measure of success isn't how far you can kind of go, it's how quickly you can pick yourself back up for a knockdown or a failure. I would also say to people that are made redundant, and there's probably a lot of redundancies sadly going to happen off the back of what's going on in the world just now. Redundancies are opportunities in disguise. You know, it's like you got two options. You can look at that and think, right, my life's over, get really depressed, really down, really sort of upset about it, or you can look at it and say, I'm never going to let this happen to me again, and use it as fire to kind of push you through. But I'd say it's really important that people like believe in themselves as well, But me personally, I'm quite comfortable with the fact that I kind of built a career first before I got a business, because I kind of thought it was important for me to get out my system, to get that experience, and I rely on it constantly when I do my job, because that's what kind of makes you a senior resource and it makes you valuable to a client, is because you've actually fought in those trenches yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's a great place to just kind of tie it up for today.
Absolutely. Excellent. Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone, for the first episode of Business Belters. This podcast is completely free. We don't do any advertising. We don't do any affiliate marketing. So for us giving you this value, we would love you to give back by sharing. We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify. We're just trying to get as more followers. Just share this valuable information.
So it's a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from him.
See you next week, guys.